In this video we're going to make an ASP.NET Core app, MVC app, MVC Model View Controller. In the last video I explained the anatomy of MVC, which looks something like this. We had our model over here, and we had the controller which handled the URL requests, and then we had the view page which which produced the code upon rendered into the browser. If you haven't watched that, I suggest you do to get an overall idea of what MVC is. We are now going to build our own MVC app. So let me just close the browser. I could just stop it running. That should close my browser as well, having clicked that little brown orange square. And now I think I'm going to close this particular solution, and then I'm going to make another one. So if I close solution, and okay, and I'm ready to start to make a new project. So if I start off by saying I'm going to create a new project, and as usual we'll choose a ASP Net Core web application, and then I'll give it a name. You can call it whatever, and I'm going to locate mine in a simple to find folder, and then click create. Now I've got a choice here with an empty or a web app or an MVC. We could start with one of those and just build up and add code to make this, but this does a lot of the framework for us, so why not make life easier? And so I'll click on create to create an MVC. You might as well just run that to see what it does. It will give us some warnings which we can override, and eventually we see our home page, our index page appearing. Notice the address we've got here, it's accessing the local server, the III server, which we can see actually running down here. If we click down beneath, we should be able to. A bit of luck, I can't quite get to it from here, we'll try that later. So let's take a look at what we've got for our money. We've got a view which we had, which is the index view, and then we've got the controller, which is the home controller. And then in the models we've got nothing of any significance for the moment. This is just a bit of error handling, which we won't talk about. But we've got basically the three folders: the controllers, the models, and the views. And this one is the one we should be looking at for the moment, which is the index page. Now recall that this was the view, so let's put that aside, and we can keep them related, just show one related to the other. We can have a look at the home controller as well, which is this file here, and you might recognize that from previously. Let's take a look and see if we can see any well, there are no models to talk of. As I mentioned, this doesn't concern us at the moment, the error view page. Data, I should say, model, but we do have a home controller and we do have an index page. So these are the two pages, and that's all we have. We don't have any models at the moment. There's nothing to hold the data at the moment. But what I might try doing is taking the typing in this URL, home and index, and then put a breakpoint in here after return view, and then just let me press the enter key. Indeed, it's gone through and found. So C# has gone looking for under the controllers. It will look first, and it indeed finds the home controller. So that once you type in the word home in here, that means it will go looking in the controllers folder for that particular controller. Now you'll notice I've also typed index, which means it's gone to look for that method. This is the index method, so this is indeed why it stopped here. Now that means it should then go into this code over here to when I continue to run it, and then if I do an F5 perhaps, Control F5, so if I were to run that, to continue running, then you'll see it's gone into the view file. And now, as I mentioned, this particular bit at the top is our C# related to the HTML. Okay, and all it does is displays welcome for the moment, along with putting that hyperlink URL into the page as well, which is not very exciting for the moment. So all this is for free. This is what we got from a very basic MVC Microsoft program. And I did mention before, when we call the view in here, it goes looking for a view with the same name as the name of the action, which indeed is this index page here, the CS HTML. CS stands for C# and HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So at the moment it does not match at all, so we're going to change that, and we are going to provide a model. So let me stop the program, and that will close my browser as well, of course, and I'm going to look at the Solution Explorer, and I'm going to try and see if I'll just take those breakpoints off while I think of it, and I'm going to look into the Solution Explorer in the Models folder. I'm going to make a new class to hold that student class. So we'll go to add, and we don't add a razor page, we add an ordinary class because it's just holding some class student. So I'm going to call it student as well, is the name of the class sheet, which will contain the class. And then I'm going to put some data in there, which I've copied from elsewhere, and I will put that inside the class and define the properties within the class. Now if you were to run that, there wouldn't be much difference. It'd still work just the same as exactly the same as it did before. So let me just show you the model, then we've got the view, and then we should be able to find our controller class as well, which is hiding up here. So I'll just drag that controller away so we can see the three of them together. What I'm going to do now is to show how we can relate this class data and how we can actually produce an object inside the controller. So if I paste that code in, and I'll place a breakpoint here, and I will run the code by clicking this iExpress, and we'll run on the IIS server, local server. And our code will stop at the breakpoint. Take a look at S1. At the moment it's null, so perhaps I can press F11, which I'll do on the keyboard. It will now show me that S1 has got these particular values. And if I were to run this further, it would then, if I were to continue, by clicking the continue button or pressing F5, whatever you like, then we should have the URL, which is automatically being placed in by our program to get the default page. Don't forget that we could have just typed in home, which would find the controller for us, and then index, which would find the particular action. So that's why we got it stopping at that breakpoint there, because it found the home controller. It's searching through, so C# went searching through the controllers folder and found a controller called home, if you like, with controller attached. That's how it identifies it. And then within that, it's gone on to find according to the action, it's gone on to find this index page here, which you can see here. So how do I basically transfer the data from the controller, if you like, to the view? Let me just take the breakpoint off first of all, and you could get rid of that welcome, which would get rid of that if you like. It's just plain old HTML. You could get rid of those links if you like. I'll just leave them there for the moment, because what I want to do is to display the data, and the way to do that is, as I might have showed you in the last video, is to use the display for, and then the model, which I explained last time, represented the actual. No, I haven't put that in yet, so let me put in that reference for the model, which is this bit of code. The ampersand, the @ sign at the front, indicating that it's razor code. So that's referring to the model's model class which is called student. So it's basically referring to this. You can see, once, as I explained last time, this is the namespace part of it, which is here, and refers to the student class, which is this class itself. So that means that model, you see, is like a variable which represents that particular, well, object. Now, having done that, I showed you last time how that could take in the use the link expression, the lambda expression, mapping model into model ID. In other words, it produces the ID, and this thing renders it onto the page. So let's just see if that works. If I press the put that URL in and then press that, it's still stopping at my breakpoint. I need to get rid of that. Well, actually the code was still running, so I've stopped it, and now let me just run the code and just see if our data will get displayed. Well, it's certainly displayed the welcome screen, but there seems to be some error here. It hasn't actually displayed the data under here. So let me just see where that might have gone wrong. Yes, if I take a look in here, I've produced a student object, but I haven't passed it to the view. So that's what I must do now. So if I type in S1, which is the name of the object, name that I've given to the object, and now if I were to run that, let's see if that does any better. I need to stop it first of all, and then I need to run it. So it looks like we've got another error. End tag is missing. Well, if we take a look, it looks like somehow I've put that in by mistake, and then I can finally try it again, and we finally see our data appearing. Let me just summarize what we've done here. We've got a model, we've got a controller, and we've got a view. We defined the shape of our data within the model, and then we've created an object of that, and we knew where to find that student class by this namespace, and then we created an object, and we need to pass that object to this particular view over here, which is called index. And once we do that, it knows that is referring to the model that was passed. You see, it's all a bit smokes and mirrors, really. It's smoke and mirrors. It's all going on underneath. So when we're passing the S1, it's understood that it goes looking for this particular view called index, and then it passes that object to this particular page, and then we can refer to that particular object and extract its properties, and then we then render those to the web page. In the subsequent videos, we're really mainly talking about attaching a database to this. So rather than just present the data to the screen, we might have a form to fill in to get the data, and that will ultimately put that into a database, and maybe even display it on the screen as well.